Hello and welcome to IBTimes TV. I'm Leanna Brinder, Business Editor for the International Business Times. Joining me now is Kristien Wendt. He's the Head of Client Services at Proelios. So hi, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Well, we're talking about a very exciting sector, one of, I suppose, the fastest growing sectors in the world, and that's online and mobile gaming. Can you tell me how the appetite has grown for these type of games over even just the last few years?
There's a few reasons. Firstly, I think because of the iPhone, when they came about, coupled with the App Store, consumers now had a very powerful personal computer in their pockets, which they could get, and then through the App Store access loads of different content. And having free-to-play games enabled more people to have more choice, and because the phones are everywhere, I think there's going to be like 2 billion phones by the end of this year, smartphones being used. More and more people can connect to the internet and basically download games, a lot of which are for free. So that's how it's basically growing and expanding and maturing.
And in terms of the demographics of the type of people using the games, are there any significant growth areas that you guys have seen?
Not particularly. I think mostly it's everyone, every type of demographic is going on to finding games on the App Store, and they're all enjoying it. So it could be the millennials, it could be the baby boom generation, whatever it is, they're finding content that they like. And I don't want to sound silly, but everyone is becoming gamers in a way. They're finding content and games that they like. So every demographic is growing in its own way. So nothing that we see is specific.
Well, it seems like it's, I suppose, for a client, it's advertising paradise if it covers every demographic. So how have certain companies looked to tap into that area and get their branding across?
Well, the way that we approach mobile gaming is that we make mobile games specifically for brands. We don't make games that feature advertising. The game is the brand. So we make games that are an experience of the brand and a connection directly to the brand. And we work with clients such as Volkswagen and Coca-Cola, and we've done work with Barclaycard before. And we work as, we take our games and we include them within their overall communications campaign. So they would have a TV ad, they would have a press ad, but we include a game, a brand game, which is basically, like I said, an interactive experience with the brand that effectively connects them and educates them and takes things from there.
Okay, and in terms of the companies doing this, I mean, you mentioned Barclaycard, but there's obviously a lot of different sectors, companies within different sectors that are doing this. Are there any more that's a bit more, I suppose, a fail or ahead of the curve than others?
Not that we've seen. I think a lot of companies are now looking at mobile and they're seeing it as basically a connection directly to every single consumer. So instead of when you're communicating using broadcast, instead now we've got something that we can connect directly to the consumer. And gaming is an area that a lot of companies are looking at right now. Some have taken it further. For example, Volkswagen, we've done a lot of work with them. And some are just sort of dipping their toes in the water and getting used to it. But it's an exciting time.
Okay, and what would you say are, I suppose, if you had to put it in a nutshell, and the core points of engaging an audience through these free mobile games, what would those be?
Quite simply, it's because it's interactive. Every other communications channel that a brand has, be it TV or social media, it's effectively passive, which works. It's something that we've been doing for a long, long time. But with gaming, it's completely different because it's you're in the game. It's interactive. You're engaged in what's going on. So when you're talking about like a game for a brand, the engagement that you're having a brand experience is greater than you would have on TV or on social media. It's because it's interactive and you're there in it and writing your own story.
Great. And I suppose looking into the future, one of the main things when it comes to advertising, previously it had always been naturally print, and then it evolved into people siphoning off some of the budget for online. How do you see that kind of budget demographic shaping up to include something like mobile games for branding?
I think a lot of brands need to see other companies and other brands doing it first and see how the potential is. For example, the engagement times that we get with our brand games, on average we get around 3 million hours of brand engagement from our games. And if you compare that to TV campaign or press, you don't get those levels of engagement, those high numbers. But I think that it's really brands understanding what games are and how they're put together, and really just getting used to the medium, because it's still a very new medium. It's only less than 40 years old. And you look at a game and say, do I know if it's a good game? Do I know if it's a bad game? And I think there's an education for brands to sort of understand game. And that's part of what we do. We take our clients and transparently we take them through the whole process of what makes a good game or what makes a bad one. And then they get to understand it. And it's like understanding your TV and understanding how print works. Exactly the same with with video games.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
That's quite all right. It's been a pleasure.
And that was Kristien Wendt. He's the Head of Client Services at Proelios.